The game is changing. My job is to ensure the stability of UBA. Alex, I need you to come back. You are the only thing that can save us.
I don't think I've ever said that before.
As a producer, I'm curious if you know, I think you've mentioned it a little bit, the end game, the trajectory of where these characters will go over a number of seasons. I don't know how many seasons, nor do I want to know any spoilers, but do you know, as a producer, have you mapped it out, or is it still kind of in flux? Like, do you know where Alex Levy will eventually end up?
We don't. It is in flux. But what I'm really hoping is that she goes into a joyous, some sort of a summer of love where, you know, it's like COVID is going to be over, the war is over, people are going to be dancing in the streets, and there's going to be just love in the air and levity, because I don't think Alex can take much more.
It was an incredible performance, and I felt like it was maybe a terrible analogy, but I almost felt like your emotions were like a sponge that was full of water. It was just wrung out and wrung out and wrung out. And I know you said that Alex is very different from you, and I think you mentioned that it was really hard this season. It was really emotionally draining for you. But what similarities what do you find most akin between yourself and Alex, or what is the biggest difference?
Well, the biggest difference is Alex doesn't have quite an ability to kind of harness emotions and put them in place, and she's a little in the moment, easily hysterical, easily kind of rattled, but yet knows how to pull it together when she has to and be presentable. I'm personally not that. You know, I have communication skills. I've been to therapy. I don't lose my shit. So there's something actually fun about being able to lose your shit. It's fun. It's being given permission, I should say, because I've watched many of an Alex in my life, and it's very unsettling. And I always sort of take a moment and go, note to self, I don't want to be that ever. So having seen those different Alexes throughout my life, I kind of just pulled that out.
Wow. Amazing performance.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Of your sort of going off what you're talking about, Julianna's character in this season, Laura Peterson, kind of plays like a mentor. She's so amazing, by the way.
So incredible.
She kind of plays like a mentor to Reese's character, Bradley. Did you have that person for you? Did you have somebody that mentored you, that was your sort of rock voice of reason? Anybody that sort of guided you?
I'd have to say Shirley MacLaine. Shirley MacLaine was my mom in a movie I did in 2000 something. She played my mother, and she and I she connected to me. I think, we speak once a year. She checks in on me, and you know, always is cheering me on and supporting me and giving me advice or talking to me about, you know, she was a woman in Hollywood in a time where it was very different. She is a big mentor to me.
Wow. And now working on a show with so many incredible females in the lead, behind the camera.
I know. And not just because it's of the time to have females. These are some of the most talented people I've ever worked with. And they did not get the job because they were a woman. They got the job because they were the most talented and most, they had the chops.
Well said. I completely agree. Whenever I hear that term, I'm like, we earned it. We have a right to be there. And I love that behind the scenes and in front of the camera, so many incredible females at the top of their game.
You're a dynamo out there. I don't think they're using you in the right way.
I don't trust her.
She seems perfectly nice.
Oh, God, she bugs me.
When I was watching your performance, being that this is what I do, being that these are the people that I aspire, every fiber of my being believed that you were a news anchor, that you were like a Diane Sawyer. You so embodied that essence. So I want to just ask you about crafting Laura. I think maybe you said in another interview, you didn't use anybody particularly as an inspiration, but did you? And I know the costume designer said that they used Katharine Hepburn as your wardrobe inspiration. So did that come into play?
Yeah, it all. Well, thank you. First of all, I really appreciate that. I sort of used a mashup of her stature at UBA was like it's like Diane Sawyer, um, in that she has her own 1 hour weekly show. She is a respected news anchor, and she's the one they bring out to interview all the big interviews, to do all the big people. But I also felt like she had a lot of grit, a lot of Rachel Maddow grit to her, but also a real field journalist because she had been on a morning talk show, got fired 20 years before you meet her, and had to go through the fire to get back to really why she loved journalism to begin with. And she comes out of it at the top of her game and gets to do what she really loves to do, which ultimately isn't the morning show. It's the real news. So I have to tell you, I just love this character.
Oh,
I had a
she's
lot of fun playing
incredible.
her.
What an amazing addition to season two. Your character, she kind of plays like a mentor figure to Bradley. I'm wondering if you had anybody like that. Did you have a Laura in your career as you were coming up, as you were moving on, at any point in your career, who sort of helped mentor you or at least was an inspiration to you?
Well, sure. Many people, I mean, including writers and directors as well. But I can tell you that, when I was on ER, I had never been on a TV show before. And I really watched. George was my mentor. I watched and listened and learned from him. I watched how he comported himself on a set, which I think is the most important. Um, the acting I felt confident in when I was that young, but the environment I did not feel confident in, and I needed help with that. And I would ask him his advice for literally everything.
Wow.
Before I would go on a talk show, I didn't know how to go on a talk show. I mean, he helped guide me because I asked him questions, and I always say that to younger actors. I'm like, you ask me anything you want because there's no question that's stupid.
Wow. You mentioned people being at the top of their game. Everybody on this show is at the top of their game. Talk about coming into a dynamic where it's female producers, female director, female writer, female led cast. How does that dynamic change? Does it change? Did it feel different for you being on that in that environment?
Well, it felt different. It's a two answer question just because we did it in the middle of a pandemic. So I don't know how it was without the masks and the shields and the protocols that we had to take in order to do the show.
Right.
But I can tell you there is a difference. First of all, I've never worked with so many women on a set. And when I say, it's not just the producers and the directors, I'm talking the crew. And it was thrilling. It was really thrilling. Um, First ADs, I had never, once I had worked with a female first AD, but they are so few and far between and so many female directors. So there was this real, um, I guess, I don't want to take away from men because I've worked with unbelievable men too. But when you see a crew that's 50-50, male and female, there's a different dynamic on the set. There just is. And it felt for me very safe, very embracing. I felt safe to do my best work. And also when you're working with great actors like that, you're only as good as they are. Like, it's like playing a game. When the tennis ball comes at you from a great player, you hit better. You just do. That's just the nature of science, right?
Yeah.
So, and the writing, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. So it was this confluence of an incredible female energy, which I really loved, and also a respect for the work we were doing. That was, I went into it sort of already knowing, oh, this is already going. It's not on my shoulders. I get to just come in and play because I could see how much stress Reese was under. When you're producing and also number one on the call sheet and worried about everyone, it's a lot. I've been there, I've done that. It was so nice for me to just go in and play.
Maybe it's much too early in the game. But I thought I'd ask you just the same. What are you doing New Year's Eve?
First of all, they seem to love a good song and dance on this show. And this season, you and Reese Have a little singing and dancing number, little jazz hands happening. Now, I heard
Yeah.
this was your actual audition tape and you danced with your mama and sent that in. So break that down for me. It was on the way to your sister's wedding or something?
Yeah, so it was my younger sister's wedding weekend, and I got an email from my agent, and he said, "Listen, man, I think you'd be perfect for this role. You don't really have to act. You've already played a fake TV anchor. Just do it again. It's the morning show." And I'm like, "Oh wow, I love the show. Like I genuinely love the show." And he goes, "You have to do a song and dance number. Can you sing and can you dance?" I go, "I can try to sing. I can try to dance." And then I realized I was like, "Wait a second. Every morning news anchor, like, is Michael Strahan a good dancer? Is he good at singing?" I mean, he's a good singer and dancer under the context of morning news anchors. And so I realized,
don't
this could be
dance.
really, this could be really kitschy and campy. And so I brought my mom in. My wife refused to do the lines with me. My mom loves being on camera. So I did the lines with my mom, and we did the song and dance number together. And they had us do Baby It's Cold Outside, which my mom is not familiar with that song. So me and my mom sang Baby It's Cold Outside. And then we sent it in, and apparently they really liked it.
You nailed it. And I heard they want to hire your mom now. But
Yeah, my mom really wants to join SAG-AFTRA. So
she should after that. So
she
but tell
loves
me.
she loves the idea of residuals. She would love the free healthcare. Like, oh man.
Oh my gosh. So now I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's the better
Yeah.
dancer, Reese or your mom?
Oh, my mom.
Oh, wow.
My mom's
Wow.
pretty. She's pretty solid. I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about current Seema Minhaj or peak, like when Seema Minhaj was Reese's age.
Let's take her at her peak.
Let's take her. She is still at her peak. I'm sorry. I'm saying Seema Minhaj is still at her peak. But I would say, yeah, my mom all day. She's great.
Oh my God, I love
Seema
that
all day. I take Seema all day.
You went full in. Okay, so you mentioned it a little bit, but I mean, you might have been offended if you didn't get this role. You are the host with the most. You've hosted the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It doesn't get higher than that. You have your own
Right.
show, you have all this. So did you walk in and were you like, I got this, 3, 2, 1, good evening, everybody? Or were you like, did you bring a different energy to it? Did it go hand in hand? Did it feel very different?
Yeah, there was times where we were reading the prompter and we had to go to camera one and read prompter, and I was like, oh man, I got this. I've been doing this since The Daily Show. Like, you guys have no idea. I've been doing this since 2014. Keep up, Billy Crudup. Like, yeah, I was really, that's where I could turn my swagger on a little bit. And then when I was doing the dramatic scenes, I was like, okay, Billy, give me some advice.
I love it. Oh my gosh, getting advice from him is amazing. So I'm gonna go a little. I think the word would be meta for this.
Sure.
If you on your own talk show could interview any morning show character, if we're gonna sort of go that direction.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Who would
I
you
could interview any morning show character. Which character would it be? I feel like Cory would be a great character because he is a sociopath. And that would, I mean, anytime you get a sociopath in the chair to interview, it's you know, it's electric. It's like, oh man, I feel Senator vibes. It's really good.
I know Chris Rock was an inspiration to you to get into
Yes.
stand-up. Who is your dramatic inspiration now that you're on a drama? Who's
Oh, Riz Ahmed. Riz Ahmed gave me so much advice while I was filming and while I was preparing for the role. So shout out to Riz. Riz is great, and he's like my big bro, and he gave me so much advice, and he's incredible.
I'm your boss. I'm gonna make sure it works out.
Oh, you're my boss. I thought you were my friend.
I'm on your side.
So first of all, I just wanted to say that I think Cory Ellison is one of the greatest characters in television history. I'm quoting him all of the time. Congratulations on your success with the role and the Emmy and all of that, even though it's like however many months later. One of my favorite things about Cory is watching his Cheshire Cat grin when everybody else in the room thinks they got the worst news and he got the best news. Just wanted the one-liners that come out of you, they're so unconventional. Are you grinning like a Cheshire Cat as an actor? And do you ever watch it back and go, that was good, that was good?
It's not typically the way that I respond to my own work.
You should.
It's mostly television's out the window. There is something about what Carrie wrote that it does fill me with a sense of glee in reading it and playing it, and it only insofar as that character seems so wildly different than anything I've ever experienced that I start to get excited at the potential of imagining somebody who could talk like that, who actually thinks like that, who could actually express themselves in that way under those circumstances to me. So I think that's part of the Cheshire Cat part of it that you mentioned, which is he's holding on to some secret. And I've designed myself what that secret could or couldn't be. But I think it mostly has to do with he has no fear of failure. And he has total confidence in his ability to manage any possible situation, whether that's living on a futon and coaching high school baseball or running a network and living in a penthouse of an extremely expensive Manhattan hotel. Those are the same for him. He's a kind of monk in that way. He just enjoys the experience of living.
That leads me, you totally led me, and when you said the word secrets, into my next question, because in this season, Alex Levy kind of has a memoir. There's a lot of books floating around this season. If Cory was to have a memoir that he wrote about himself, based on sort of the backstory you've created for your character, what bombshell revelation would we find out about Cory if he wrote a memoir?
I suspect his memoir would take the form of a series of haikus, that they would be as inscrutable as he is, and perhaps there would be 12 of them for some unknown mysterious reason. And what you would find is that there were Ellisonians following in his footpath, trying to decipher the haikus that he had created to try to describe the kind of person he was. That's how ornate I feel like Carey has made this guy.
I feel like you just... Sorry.
Yeah, no, he's a true eccentric. And he's somebody who is perhaps as inscrutable to himself as he is to others. And maybe it's his awareness of that brings him such joy. I think what we'll find in the second season, though, is Carey has turned the screws on him and given him somebody to care for and given him something to care for. So what happens to somebody who has nothing to lose when they have something to lose?
Notre Dame burned down, Australia burned down, the Amazon...
Stop. Let's give the people some hope. Let's give me some hope. Did anything good happen?
The U.S. won the Women's World Cup.
Jesus, 2019 sucks.
What actually occurred to me when I was looking through your Instagram, and I did go deep, I saw an interview that you did where you said that you don't necessarily like to see any of yourself in the characters that you play. And that's when I see Mia. I've worked on a lot of morning shows. I've been a guest on a lot of morning shows, news shows. You so embody. I've worked with that woman so many times. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to ask you about sort of how you find her and then how you found her again in season 2.
Well, I think I approach characters from the emotional aspect first. And, you know, the character is written in the reflection and imagination of Carey Aaron. And, you know, I am such an advocate of whatever story she wants to tell, you know, and it's great to be in her reflection. She's got an awesome imagination, and the spark of it really is in that character and in the work you do. So, you know, that's my way in, but I'm an actor that often likes to not to say less. Right? Because I think that as human beings, we don't talk as much as we do on television. A lot of our language is in our behavior, right? It's body language. So that's part of my other way in. To embody the character is really to try to figure out what their behavior is. So those are my ways in.
What do you think Mia's theme is for season 2? Just to give fans a little tease. What's her theme?
The theme is how do you handle power? You know, she becomes the executive producer of the morning show. Chip is out of the picture and the other guy is out of the picture, and she's given the morning show at a time of extraordinary transition, and it really tests her mettle. And so I think the big theme for Mia is vulnerability and power and, you know, transparency, how she handles all of the many ways that power and challenge and transition come at her.
I've been asking everybody in the cast today to settle a debate. Is Cory the most evil person, or is he the most well-adjusted human on the planet? Because he's the only person that doesn't melt down.
No. Cory's evil, right to the core. Okay, so let's just get that straight. Right down to his heart.
You were the only person that actually said that, so thank you.
You're welcome. Right down to his little bitty dried up beating heart. He's absolutely right to the core. Not a good person.
In real life, put your producer hat on, your TV producer hat on. Who would make the best anchor?
Well, I think that's got to be Nestor Carbonell. I think that's got to be Nestor. He's got great empathy and he's got a great improvisational technique. But you also take him pretty seriously when he puts those, big brown eyes. It looks like they're with the eyeliner and the mascara. I mean, what are you going to do? He's so handsome. You just want to look at him all the time. It's got to be Nestor.
The network doesn't think you have the it factor. We're looking to showcase some other talent.
You know what the problem with racism is? You don't fix it by pretending to want to fix it.
I'm so sorry I'm going to do this to you, but I was such a Lost fan.
Go ahead.
So here we go. If
All
the
right.
characters of the morning show were to crash on the island, who would do the best? Who would have a meltdown? Who would flip out? Who would be the ringleader? How would they
Oh
all
my
do?
God, that's a tremendous question. Who would flip out? I have a feeling Alex wouldn't handle it very well.
Okay.
I think Bradley would do okay. I think she'd handle it. I think she'd pivot. Okay.
Right.
I think Yanko would be a disaster. I think yeah, I don't think he'd be good in that setting. Although he is a bit of an optimist, maybe. I don't know. I think he'd lose it though to some extent. But I love you put me there now. And now you make me want to go back too.
We have to go back.
You have to go back.
This line. Well, at least he could maybe do the weather patterns and figure out how to get you
He
guys off
could.
the
He
island.
could. How do we get off this island? Yes, let's time it with the weather. Yes, for sure. No,
He would save the day.
he would drive himself nuts. Yeah.
I'm asking everybody in the cast today to settle a debate for me.
Yeah.
Is Cory the most evil person, or is he the most well-adjusted person of all time?
You know,
Because
that
he's
is
the only one that
such a
doesn't
great
melt
question.
down.
That's a phenomenal question. You know, it's interesting. I don't necessarily see him as evil. I mean, he definitely has, horrible tendencies. He definitely plays both sides of the fence. There's no question. But there's evil in every one of these characters. I mean, every one of them is capable of some horrific things, except I think Yanko. Yanko's the only one I think he may be the only one who's somewhat redemptive of the bunch. Maybe Claire as well. Yanko and Claire. Ty seems to be a good sort. Now there's a few of us. There's plenty of evil to go around.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you because I actually think that he's very well adjusted. He adapts very quickly. But what you were saying about Yanko, you play the best lovesick puppy. And you just cannot get out of your own way. He is the nicest dude. He just can't get out of his own way. So if you were able to have a sit down with Yanko, what advice would you give him? What would you tell him?
I mean, I tried to talk to Yanko and I tried to sort of work this out with him because I was like, dude, she's just destroying you. And then and you're going down this very destructive path with Claire, and now with this whole thing where they're trying to cancel you. I just tell him to he's a little naive. He's more than just a little naive. And I think he expects much more from humanity than humanity is able to give him. And he should rely on individuals and not humanity for a brighter future. And I think that's why he's so heartbroken. He feels that humanity has failed him, at every turn, and he feels deeply misunderstood. And I would tell him, bro, just stop trying so hard.
Right. No, I absolutely can relate to that character. And sometimes you just can't get out of your own way. Alex's character writes a memoir this season.
Yes.
Other than Alex, because we sort of get a glimpse into that, which character's memoir do you think would be the most have explosive, shocking revelations and be the most fascinating read?
I think you nailed it before. I think Cory would be fascinating. I think that would be a great memoir. I think Mitch's would be fascinating. And we get a sense of what his memoir might be because we really delve into his thought process throughout the fallout from what he was a part of. So I think his would be interesting, but I think Cory's would be super interesting. I think his would be great. He's such a Machiavellian character. It's fascinating.
And what do you think Yanko's theme is this season? Like if he had a theme, what would it be? Just to give a fan sort of a tease.
That unfortunately perception is everything. And
There will always be a part of me that wants to be liked. I never wanted to be this person.
First of all, I just wanted to say, who knew that the most shocking revelation of season 2 would be Chip's real name? The use of Chip's real name. And he seemed very irritated by it.
Yeah, I think he likes being Chip. No, he doesn't want to go by that other thing. So
Did you ever have nicknames?
I did. I had one really terrible nickname in late middle school. It was Mark the Shark. I achieved this nickname because I went to see Who Framed Roger Rabbit with a lovely young girl named Shannon, and it was going to be our first makeout session. And she reported back to everyone that I bit her tongue in the makeout. And so for months in school, I was known as Mark the Shark.
Oh my gosh. When you said
Yep.
Mark the Shark, I had no idea that's where you were going with it. That's
Well, yep, that's what I got. Yep.
Well, it's okay that it didn't work out with that lovely young lady because your real life wife is on this season of the show. Yay!
Yes.
I loved
Yes.
watching your dynamic. So if you just want to maybe talk about how awesome it was.
Well, look, my wife and I grew up making films together. Our first film that we ever made that was at Sundance was a movie called The Puffy Chair that we starred in together. We starred in 7 seasons of The League together, a TV show on FX. And so she's a filmmaker and actor in her own right. And while it was a smaller role for this season, we were lucky that she was off of work during the pandemic and we were able to bring her on board.
It was great watching that dynamic. Now let's talk about your TV wife, which is Alex Levy, or at least Chip's TV wife. I'm just going to ask, is he in love with her or not?
Listen, I got my own secrets as to what my motivations are and sticking around with that relationship and receiving the emotional lashings that Chip tends to receive from her. But I will say this, I think those two are desperately in need of each other in their lives, and neither one wants to admit it. They're codependent, but they're also pretty toxic to each other. But there's a lot of love there. And it's just one of the most fun relationships I've ever gotten to play on screen because Jen and I love each other a lot personally, and we can inject a lot of that humor and that love into that toxicity, and it makes for a great love-hate dynamic.
Oh, you feel it. And you feel like in every moment, it feels like two people who have known each other for a very long time. One of the fun things about watching this, just kind of an extension of what you're talking about, is characters making terrible decisions and having meltdowns. So if you were to sit Chip down and give him some advice, what would you say to him?
I would say, Chip, there is a God-sized hole in your chest, and your relationship with Alex Levy is not going to fix this. You're going to have to go to therapy, and you're going to have to face yourself to figure out what's going wrong to make yourself happy. But the truth is, that's not as fun television, so I'm glad he doesn't do it.
You're good. I know. As an actor, I'm sure it's a blast playing the meltdowns. Okay, so I'm asking everybody in the cast today to settle a debate. Is Cory the most well-adjusted human on the planet? Because he can adapt to any situation. He sees the best in every situation. He never has a meltdown. Or is he evil? Which is it? Which side are you on?
So I think Cory's got a little bit of both in him. I think that the fact that he is so able to pivot in the moment doesn't necessarily make him evil, but I think he's so cut off from his emotions and he's so screwed up by his mother that it allows him to just be able to pivot and be a little bit cold and callous. But I think beneath all of that, and once you get past that, is a very ethical, moral, and loving dude. And I cannot wait. I hope we get 10 more seasons so we can slowly scratch in and get to know that guy.
Put your producer hat on. Who would make the best anchor in real life? Which actor would make the best TV anchor in real life?
Desean Terry. I mean, he is unflappable. He's super charming, and he loves talking to people all day long. Takes great interest in anyone who walks in the set. Infinitely better than all of us.
There is a pattern of behavior around here that disadvantages the people of color.
I just want to first of all jump right in. Settle a debate for me. I'm asking a lot of people in the cast today. Is Cory the most evil person on earth, or is he the most well-adjusted human on earth? Because he can kind of pivot and shift like on a dime.
I definitely don't think he's well adjusted. No, that's definitely not. I think he's more on the line. I don't think he's evil. I don't think he's the most evil person on earth. I think he has there's so many good sides to him. But I think what's so fascinating about all our characters is that the characters they have things about them that are flawed. They have things about them that are noble. I mean, look at our relationship with Alex Levy. Like, I love her, and also I love to hate her. And sometimes I'm like, I just hate you. Like, you are wrong. Look what she did to Daniel.
I know. Well, that said, I feel like this season really, I loved where your character went this season, but I feel like it's the tip of the iceberg. I'm wondering for you as an actor, Where do you hope that Daniel goes? Like, where would you like to see him go in the future?
Well, I think it's really cool because, from season 1 to season 2, Daniel is definitely set up as our underdog. And so, of course, we love to root for the underdogs. I love to root for the underdogs. And so now that, well, I can't jump. I almost did a spoiler. Uh,
Then I
so
need to air it anyway, so it's good you didn't say it.
I hope what we continue to see with Daniel is that Daniel needs to figure out, and what Daniel is already doing, by the way, is that Daniel is determined and he is so affixed on confronting these problems, and he's trying new tactics as we see this season.
Yes,
And
one of my favorite moments in the whole season was your new tactic.
yeah. So hopefully, I think Daniel discovers even more and the wealth of resource that is within him, and that we get to see him, progress. Because I think that that's what we all want. We want to see people like that move forward, and Daniel has quite a journey in front of him, and it's exciting to watch.
Who do you think of the cast would make the best anchor in real life?
Who would make the best anchor in real life? You know, I think we're all good in different ways, but I have to say that, I think Jen, whenever I see her on the anchor table, there's this just so, she's America's sweetheart. There's just this natural charm. What I love about Jen in her work in general, and I also like about in the morning show, is that Jen knows how to like even make her mistakes adorable. And so in morning TV, where, it's all live, I feel like seeing her, flub up or anything that she does would be exciting, and just find it endearing. I don't know how to make my mistakes look as endearing as Jen does yet. If she could just teach me that one thing during the show, that would be greatly appreciated.
I so thought you were going to say yourself, and I would have been totally down for you saying yourself, because I know you said when you auditioned for this in the first place, you were so like, this is my guy, this is the character, I'm going to get this role. Like, you felt very akin to him.
Yeah, I don't like the job though. I don't like the news anchor job. Mm.
You don't want my job?
No.
One of the great things about this show is the meltdowns and the bad decisions that these characters make. If you could sit and like, when you read it, do you go, yes, terrible decisions, I get to act it? Or do you go, oh no? And like, what advice would you give Daniel?
First of all, I love that you said that's it. That we see these characters make bad decisions. Like Daniel makes a couple like, ooh, Daniel, that's not the right thing to do. The advice that I would give Daniel is that and this is actually a more sincere, somber moment, but the advice that I would give Daniel is I would tell Daniel that you are enough. You are enough, which is what I love about Daniel, because he has this soft core and we see him, dealing with this very, very real problem. But I think ultimately it's going to come to that place where for this tremendous fight, he needs to live more in the understanding that he is enough.
There's been a lot written about the morning show and a lust for ratings that made even the worst behavior permissible. Do you feel that the important issues have been addressed?
I've now watched season 2 times.
Wow.
And it just leaves me wanting more. So I wanted to ask you, as a producer, do you know the trajectory? I think Jen's talked about it a little, that you maybe have an overriding arc of where it's going to land at the end. You know what's going to happen to these characters, even though you're working within actual news stories and changing things as you go within the seasons.
Yeah. The ending wasn't really written until right before we shot it. And, we knew what it was going to be, but it's different knowing what it's going to be and then having it be. Our whole journey on the show was, identity, and who am I? And, we deal with race, cancel culture, sexuality. And by the end of the show, we're really, looking inside, like, who are we? Because we've reached, we start the story 3 months before the big shutdown. And we ask those questions. Am I a good person? Alex's characters, had to really work and, with the fallout um, of staying relevant, and Bradley struggles with her relationship with her brother and Laura and her family. And so, who are they on a personal level? Who are they what is their public persona? It's a real road to discovery.
Yeah.
And it was, these actors are so great. They are so extraordinary, all of them. So it's been a tremendous journey.
I know Desean talked about the first time he auditioned for you and said that he felt seen and he felt that you really saw him, he locked eyes with you. How do you know, without spoilers, how do you know that an actor has that X factor, that it factor? Because you're working with so many veterans on this show, but you're also working with some newer actors that are auditioning for you.
Sure. I just knew, we knew he was just perfect. He's an extraordinary human being. And, he's a great actor and he's also a really good director. I went and saw a stage play he did. He's really strong. And, when he walked in the room, he's got such a presence and he was authentic. And he felt authentic and he felt like the guy.
Yeah.
Felt like the guy who has to fight for everything. People of color in our world have to fight harder than anybody. And we wanted to reflect that story in our newsroom, that, if we're talking about identity, there's no talking about identity without talking about racism in our culture.
You're just so caught up in ruling over your rotten little fiefdom. The rest of the world, they've moved to the clouds, and it is gorgeous up there. This is a battle for the soul of the universe.
So happy together, so happy together, so happy together.